Good morning. I'm blessed to be among you this morning. 29th, as far as holidays are concerned. I don't know if I can name 28 other holidays. That's pretty substantial, right? Again, I'm blessed to be among you this morning. I need some help from maybe one of the kids. I need somebody 10 or under to tell me, who are these characters? Does anybody know? From Peter Pan. What were they called? You don't know? Okay. Here's another rendition of them from a different movie. I'm sorry? Nobody? Lost Boys. Yes, thank you. Was somebody under 10? No. Again, these movies might be a little bit dated, and we might be showing our age here. But most of us know the story of Peter Pan. I thought most of us knew the story of Peter Pan. We don't know where we're at now, but you might at the end. We'll see. As we know, Peter Pan lived in Neverland with the Lost Boys. They had adventures, freedom, excitement, but they did lack something, right? They were called lost for a reason. The Lost Boys had a place to stay, friends, entertainment, but they had no father. No one to guide them, correct them, protect them, or to prepare them for adulthood. Many children today know something of that feeling. Families break apart, fathers leave, parents divorce, children can find themselves stuck, caught between two worlds. Some children feel lost, but others grow up with wonderful fathers and still wrestle with questions of identity and belonging. It was a great time yesterday at the wedding. We were standing around swapping stories, and Uncle Paul and my dad were talking about Grandpa and one of his adventures on the Autobahn in Germany. It was fun to hear. Near the end of his life, my grandpa gave me a copy of a letter, a reference letter he wrote to a judge during the process of my adoption, and on behalf of my dad. When he provided this to me, he put a little Post-it note on it with just a sentence saying about how much that meant to him. One of the lines in the letter I'd like to share with you, and I'd like to read it to you. We will be happy to accept Dustin as one of our grandchildren. Again, a little trick. If you feel emotional on stage, water in, water out. All right. I was personally very blessed and fortunate to have a father and a grandfather and so many other godly men, most of which are among this congregation, that were willing to sacrifice so much and give a good home and a godly example. Let's turn to our passage. We're going to be in Titus 1, 5 through 9. This is why I left you in Crete, so that you might put what remained into order and appoint elders in every town as I directed you. If anyone is above reproach, the husband of one wife, and his children are believers and not open to the charge of debauchery or insubordination. For an overseer, a God's steward, must be above reproach. He must not be arrogant or quick-tempered or a drunkard or violent for greedy for gain, but hospitable, a lover of good, self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. He must hold firm to the trustworthy word as taught, so that he may be able to give instruction in sound doctrine and also to rebuke those who contradict it. So as we read Titus 1, you might say, this is a list for elders and should not be applied to everyone or every man. I disagree. Titus 1 is a description of the qualifications for elders. Paul is not describing a special class of men who live on a higher spiritual plane than everyone else, but he's describing the kind of man who a church should recognize as leaders, and because he's already leading a life worth following. So if these are qualities required for an elder, should they not be also pursued by not only every Christian father, but every Christian man? And with that, for ladies, young ladies, when you're pursuing a man, should these qualities not be also in someone that you're pursuing? So this isn't just for dads or men, but ladies, be on the lookout for these qualities in men to pursue them. So, as we continue on, we must ask ourselves, what do lost boys need? We're going to visit several different people throughout our hour together or so. Not an hour. The next few minutes. The first one's going to be Joseph. Lost boys need fathers of character. Now, we'll be in Genesis 39 for this. Now, Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. And after a time, his master's wife cast her eyes on Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Behold, because of me, my master has no concern about anything in the house, and he has put everything that he has in my charge. He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" And as she spoke to Joseph day after day, he would not listen to her, to lie beside her or to be with her. What does this say about Joseph's integrity? He didn't say, if we do this, I might get caught. He didn't say, I could lose my job. And in this circumstances, he could very well lose his head. It did not appear that was a lot of his concern. He was worried about offending God. How can I do this wickedness and sin against God? Joseph's character was rooted in his relationship with God. Reputation is what people think you are. Character is what God knows you are. Character is what you do when nobody sees. So we might say, why do children need this? Children need fathers that they can trust. Not perfect fathers, as none of us are. If you're wondering how I got this list that we're going to go over, I just took a list of all the things that I'm bad at and tried to make it, flip it around. But they need trustworthy fathers, not perfect fathers. Children need to know Dad means what he says. Dad tells the truth. Dad's relationship with Christ is real. So when you ask yourself, will your children trust your word? Do they see consistency? Am I the same man at home as I am in church? But character answers one question, really. Can I trust him? But children do need more. They also need direction. And for this, we'll look at Joshua. Children need fathers who lead. Joshua's declaration, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So what's going on in Joshua's life here? Joshua is older. Moses is gone. He knows his life is nearing its end. In chapter 24, he brings all the people together. All the people. And he just kind of, the first time I was up here this year, we did an AAR. He just kind of reviews what God has done for them. Here we see a recounting of God's faithfulness. We're not going to hit everything, but we'll just start at verse 11 here. And you went over to the Jordan and came to Jericho, and the leaders of Jericho fought against you, and also the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hevites, and the Jebusites, and I gave them into your hand. I sent the hornet before you, which drove them out by your sword or your bow, which drove them out before you. The two kings of the Amorites, it was not by your sword or by your bow. I gave you the land which you have not labored, and cities that you had not built, and you dwell in them. You eat the fruit of the vineyards and the olive orchards that you did not plant. Again, he's just kind of going through this list of the faithfulness of God to his people. And then we get to 14 and 15. Now therefore fear the Lord and serve him sincerely and in faithfulness. Put away the gods that your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. And if it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day who you will serve, whether gods your fathers served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. He told them, choose today. And I find it interesting in this passage, he did not wait for them to tell him who they were going to serve. He was very upfront. He said, me and my house, we will serve the Lord. He didn't wait for consensus, but he established direction. Children ask many questions of us. Are we there yet? How much longer? Can I have more dessert? If you're traveling, again, are you there? Are we there yet? How much longer? And then again, are we there yet? How much longer? Those are the questions that they ask us. But the important questions, they may not physically ask us. They're not going to come to you and say, Dad, Mom, according to what values should I structure my life? What matters? What should I believe? Someone will answer those questions, whether it's you or the world. Leadership is not domination, it's not anger, it's not control. Leadership is setting a direction, going first and taking responsibility. With this, we need to ask ourselves, do my children know that everything I have comes from the Lord? Do my children know what I believe? Do they see me following Christ? Do they see me serving in the church? One of the reasons children feel lost is because they feel like they don't know where they're going. They need someone to say, this is the way. And as fathers, we have to be leaders for our children. Direction is important, but children also need stability. Lost boys, children need fathers with self-control. And here we're going to talk about David. For years, Saul hunted and tried repeatedly to kill David. And David has been essentially running for his life. And about this time, we get to 1 Samuel 24. When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, behold, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi. Maybe. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men in front of the wild goats' rocks. And he came to the sheepfolds by the way where there was a cave, and Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. And the men of David said to him, here is the day of which the Lord said to you, behold, I will give your enemy into your hands, and you shall do to him as you shall seem good to you. Then David arose and stealthily cut off a corner of Saul's robe. And afterwards David's heart struck him, because he cut off a corner of Saul's robe. He said to his men, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to put my hand against him. Seeing he is the Lord's anointed, so David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went away. Like I said, Saul had been hunting David for quite some time, but what an incredible moment. David's men, I can imagine if I was one of David's men, I would be very frustrated. Like, here's essentially our enemy. This is your chance. Like you told us before, he's going to be delivered into your hands, and you're not going to take advantage of it. David had the opportunity. I feel he was probably justified. He had the support of his friends, and yet he restrained himself. A great example of self-control. But we're going to jump forward to one of David's descendants. In Matthew 5:5, Jesus says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And what does that mean? Derek's here, so if I get this wrong, he can chastise me later. But the word meek is translated from the Greek word pros. It carries the idea of gentleness, humility, and controlled strength. The word pros was sometimes used to describe animals, mainly horses that had been tamed. In Matthew 11:29, Jesus describes himself with this word, I am gentle, pros, and lowly in heart. But in Matthew 26:53, we read what Jesus says he could do if he wanted. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send more than 12 legions of angels? Meek fathers are capable men that are under control. Self-control is strength under God's control. Children feel safest when adults are stable. There's a saying my wife actually said to me once, the way we speak to our children becomes their inner voice. A father's anger can shape a child's heart for years, and a father's self-control creates security. We later see the consequences of David's life stemming from a lack of self-control. After David's adultery with Bathsheba and Uriah's murder in 2 Samuel, the consequences spread throughout his family. The prophet Nathan comes and confronts him. Now, therefore, the sword shall never depart from your house. And what happens after that? The child between David and Bathsheba dies. Later, he has an assaulted daughter, a murdered son, a rebellious son, and a divided household. And a lot of this could be contributed to a lack of self-control. The consequences of his decisions ripped through the people he loved. David repented, and David was forgiven. And God worked through David's family line to bring forth Jesus Christ. But our failure as fathers are not greater than God's grace. But there can be consequences. A father's self-control, or lack thereof, affects the entire family. So character provides trust, leadership provides direction, self-control provides stability. But every child also needs security. We're going to talk about Job. We're just all over the place today. Children need fathers that are anchored in God. Job had everything he needed. He was a faithful husband and a devoted father, but his world collapsed. Raiders stole his livestock. His servants were killed. His wealth disappeared. Then all of his children were killed when a great wind struck his house. In a matter of days, Job lost his wealth, his children, his health, and almost every source of security. Even through all of this, Job did not abandon God. His wife, seeing him in his misery, says, "Curse God and die." Every child will eventually discover that dad cannot stop every storm. He can't prevent sickness. He can't protect you from loss or guarantee that life will be easy. But a child needs a father who knows where to go when times get tough. So how should we behave when everything changes and is challenging? With Job, his wealth was gone, his children were gone, his health was gone, yet Job remains faithful. He says, "The Lord gave, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." His faith was anchored in God, not circumstances, not success, not comfort, and not in his health. Children need to see, how does dad handle suffering? How does dad handle disappointment? And how does dad handle loss? And, as fathers, we have to ask ourselves, what is anchoring my life? Is it money, career, reputation, comfort? Or is it a relationship with a Heavenly Father? So at this point, we can ask ourselves, who can actually live like this? It's a high bar, I think. And we will all fall short. Well, look at Eli. Eli loved his sons, but he did not lead them in the way he should have. If you want to turn to 1 Samuel 2 and 3, or 2 with me. The ESV says, "Now the sons of Eli were worthless men. They did not know the Lord." The NIV calls them scoundrels and had no regard for the Lord. Eli, we can't say that Eli did not try. In chapter 2, verse 22, "Now Eli was very old, and he kept hearing that his sons were doing all to all Israel, and how they lay with women who were serving at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And he said to them, 'Why do you do such things? For I hear of your evil dealings from all these people. No, my sons, it is no good report that I hear from the people of the Lord spreading abroad. If someone sins against a man, God will mediate for him. But if someone sins against the Lord, who can intercede for him?' But they would not listen to the voice of their father, for it was the will of the Lord to put them to death." So Eli, one could say he did what he could, but we find out in the next chapter, chapter 3, 11 through 14. These are harsh words. The Lord is talking to Samuel. "Then the Lord said to Samuel, 'Behold, I am about to do a thing in Israel which the 2 ears of everyone who hears will tingle. On the day I will fulfill against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house from the beginning to the end. And I declared to him that I am about to punish his house forever for the iniquity that he knew, because his sons were blaspheming. Because his sons were blaspheming God, and he did not restrain them. Therefore I swear to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned by sacrifice or offering forever.'" We read earlier that Eli, he spoke to his sons, but we read here that that might not have been enough. So what do we draw from this? Obviously, there's a line somewhere that we have to follow as fathers. Love without leadership is incomplete. Eli loved his sons, but he failed to lead them. And I guess one thing that we can notice, we as fathers cannot just be friends to our children. So what can we do? There's a risk that we're being too harsh. There's also a risk that we're being too lenient. A father who never corrects, confronts, directs, or disciples leaves his children without guidance. I think the best thing we can do is apply love and truth, compassion and correction, and grace and boundaries. So as we return to the thought of these lost boys, truthfully, at one point or another, we're all just lost boys. Spiritually speaking, every one of us started as a lost child. In Ephesians 2, we read we were wandering and without hope, without God. But the good news, the gospel, is not the story of lost children finding God, but God finding lost children. Romans 8:15. "For the Lord did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but if you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father." This morning we've looked at Joseph, Joshua, David, Job, and Eli. Each one teaches us something about fatherhood and godly manhood. Some show us what to imitate, and some warn us what to avoid, but all of them ultimately point to Christ. Jesus is the perfect example of character, leadership, self-control, and faithfulness. And the gospel is the most complete story of a father who takes lost children and brings them home. I told you about this letter years ago. A judge read that letter, and it was about whether a child should be welcomed into a family. And today I'm very thankful for that letter and to be among you. But I'm even more thankful for another reality. Because of Jesus, I don't only belong to an earthly family. we all belong to the family of God. So I guess a challenge to fathers, we need to be the kind of man worth following. To children, honor your fathers. And to everyone, we should all rejoice through Christ that the lost are welcomed into the home of the perfect Father. And if Jesus were to write a letter on your behalf, I'm convinced that it would say, I would be happy to welcome you into my Father's family. Let's conclude. I know we already sang it, but it's just too good. Faith of Our Fathers, 439, and we'll do verses 1 and 3.